As stage 2 and 3 ripple across the country, we welcome you to AA, our webcast about Andrew, Ari, and an analytics look at sports. Guys, things are so uncertain right now that one of the only things we know that is certain about pro or college football or sports all this fall is one fact about college football, and that's that Ari's Caltech Beavers will be undefeated once again this fall in college football. What do you think, Ari?
I think that's great. Love the opening.
Of course,
Caltech Beavers.
of course, the Beavs are undefeated over the past decade, are they not? Or in perpetuity? How long does that go?
Yeah,
Right up there. Is this right up there with the University of Chicago football team? Has been undefeated in the Big Ten since, what, the late 40s?
If you don't play, you can't lose. No lose proposition.
And we are all here to play, as you can tell. So welcome to game number 3, or webcast number 3 of AA. The A stands for Andrew. Hello, Andrew.
Hello.
And Ari. Hello, Ari.
Hello.
And the I is artificial intelligence or analytics, or us just sitting down and breaking down the business of sports. And we're going to lead off with that kooky open on college football, but there's actually a lot going on right now as we take a look today at what we know and what is terribly uncertain about repercussion of COVID-19 economic impact. And guys, we're going to start off with college football because the big brands a week ago, Texas, Ohio State, like that, Alabama, they all said, we're ready to play. But Andrew, right now, one of them is saying, not so fast. Got to be cautious about this.
Yeah, it was interesting. I think Harbaugh had just come out from the University of Michigan saying they were going to be ready to play. And not that many days later, the president of the University of Michigan came right back out and said, if the students can't be on campus, I don't see how we can have the football players on campus either. This is repeating the words of his Big Ten colleague, the president of the University of Minnesota, who had said effectively the same thing a couple weeks ago. And I don't see how you can argue with that. If these schools don't feel safe enough to let the kids on campus, how can they bring the players back on campus as well?
And fellows, that gets right into, all right, that takes us into the depth of what we're just tiptoeing in, or the potential depth of what we're tiptoeing in with regard to economic impact.
Yeah, the economic impact is tremendous. As you can all imagine, sports, the peripheral, merchandising, ticket sales. For college towns, it's been a big focus on just changing, a lot of the entire downtown is based on having a large college or university, and a lot of that is sports driven. It's really unprecedented to see the economic impact for the coming days, weeks, months, and at least a year for now.
But there are a couple of reasons why this is our lead story this week. And Andrew, I'll even pick on the Golden Gophers there. They're coming off a season in which Coach PJ Fleck, one of our favorites, by the way, everybody say row the boat. Everybody say row the boat. We all row the boat here.
Row the boat.
Okay. Right. The Golden Gophers are rowing the boat. I mean, this guy's got a roll in there, and this may pull the plug on that and a great deal. And again, Texas, throughout the state of Texas, Texas A&M, Texas Tech, TCU, 2 weeks ago said they were going to be playing. But now, and the NFL is speaking up, and the owner of the Dolphins is saying, he says they're going to play beginning September 10th. But, Andrew, there's a caveat there.
Yeah, well, they're going to play. Whether or not they have fans in the stands is the big question, right? And what happens, every plan we're making is contingent on so many other things not happening or happening. It's hard to forecast a week from now, let alone September.
Well, and Ari, a week from now, and let's stay with college football a second. A week from now, things could be very painful at the University of Connecticut campus they're looking at cutting some teams, but big budget cuts.
Yeah, big name schools, epic foundational schools across the states. I expect to see budget cuts. Some, professional sports are pledging to keep funding for it, but yeah, if there's no revenue coming in, you have to look at every aspect.
It looks like the Huskies could cut as many as 8 of their 24 sports, and I'd be curious to see if baseball is one of them. They have tremendous baseball heritage. A couple of big leaguers right now, George Springer with the Astros be primary among them. All right, guys, let's switch to baseball. Ari, you're on, former MLB executive. Where do things stand right now? Should we be, and Andrew, you and I are going to set a line, but we're calling, I think Ari said June 1st, this is going to be settled. Andrew, I said June 15th. Where are you on the over-under of this thing being settled? Andrew, give us a line on that, will you?
I'm more along with you, June 15th. But I also know Ari's reasoning is still very valid, that if you want to be back July 1, June 15th might almost be too late to have made that decision. So I think you're right. They're a long ways away, but it's a hard to get there in time.
Yeah, so just like 30 minutes before we started recording, Major League Baseball made their proposal to the MLB Players Association, and haven't read all the details, but sounds like a scaling slide and unclear if there's deferred payments or not. But the response across the the initial response I've seen, it's been highly negative. So could be, it's nothing's dead in the water, and that you still have time to renegotiate. But when I said June 1st, that would be, hopefully get a July 4th re-emergence, which includes, some gearing up in spring training. If it does slip past there, there's still a chance for an even shorter season, but then it doesn't feel like, feels more like exhibition, where you're playing games for entertainment, which arguably is all they are anyway, but, less traditional, almost like exhibition games for fun. When you start having a really shortened season beyond that. So that's one thing, is just in, one proposal back. And, then, there's a couple areas where baseball's professionally played now. That is Korea and Taiwan, and the NPB in Japan is looking to get started. Another league in Nicaragua actually just suspended, unfortunately. They were playing, and one of 8 players at least had the virus, and one manager who unfortunately passed away. Dennis Martinez, who is well known, from there, former major league, all-star pitcher. Just calling it ridiculous, inconceivable, and absurd to have had play go on under those conditions. But when you compare it to Japan, that only has reported 830 COVID deaths, and Taiwan with only 269 deaths, that's pretty small, and per population especially. So yeah, there's a lot more we could talk about there.
A lot, guys. Let's spend some time on this. Andrew, how do we take what we're learning from pro baseball or baseball in Latin America and the Asian pro leagues, much like what we've tried to do over the last couple of weeks, and learning from what's going on with pro soccer, and we'll get to that in a minute. So how do we take that and factor that into, if we're the union heads or if we're on the owner's side, and factor that into the health of the players, the health of the coaches, managers, the staff, especially some of the coaches who may have, recovered from cancer or other health factors. How do we, I really am uncertain about how to factor that.
Yeah, it's a really tough question. I know there's been reports that a number of the leagues are talking to their colleagues in leagues that have started up to find out what's working, what's not working. I think it's a really hard problem for Major League Baseball with the current approach of playing in the home stadiums of all of the teams. If you look at the Bundesliga, it's a much more compact area. You don't have as much movement. Japan, Taiwan, South Korea, especially, it's so much easier for people to move relatively quickly, to remain isolated as they travel. I don't even know how much of the learnings from a place like Taiwan you can bring to the way Major League Baseball is going to come back. It's such a different situation with the teams having to travel that much. But at least they are talking to one another, so hopefully they are learning best practices.
So Bundesliga started 2 weeks ago.
Yes.
La Liga started this past weekend. No fans, right, guys?
Mm-mm. La Liga announced they were going to start in early June, I think June 11th.
June 11th, right.
Yeah, so Bundesliga had their second round that just completed. Things seem to be going okay. On the other hand, you look at the Premier League, they still haven't even determined a date they'll restart, and they've just had a couple more positive tests for COVID-19, which make things even more confused in their situation.
And all right, we can even enter into the conversation what the National Hockey League is doing. They're still really clear that it's a big if, but they're setting plans should there be an opportunity for them to play or resume and have playoffs.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, every
Andrew, I think we just had our official first webcast hiccup, which is entirely okay.
see
But
how baseball and others pan out.
there we go. All right, for just an instant, you had a famed internet hiccup there. So why don't you go ahead and revisit that thought?
Yeah, I was just going to say that. That all professional sports, the NHL as well as the NFL, are looking to gear up. NFL believe in NHL, no, the NFL in September. So they have the luxury of a couple more months to see how baseball, NASCAR, and others play out without fans. How the broadcast looks, how the sponsorship, commercial revenue looks. But yeah, every professional sport is kind of, in fast pace, planning mode and scenario.
That's a good way to
what-if
put it,
planning.
fast-paced planning mode. Because those league
Mhm.
executives and the owners of teams, and to finish the thought about the NHL, they're looking at a 24-team playoff if they're able to resume the season. But Andrew, if you're a league office or an owner of a pro sports team, you have to look at what happened in golf this past weekend and say, wait a minute, there's a TV audience out there starving for our product, whatever that might be, soccer, hockey, football, basketball, baseball, because this weekend was really remarkable what happened in terms of TV viewership.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In a made-for-TV matchup, right? The viewership was reported to be, was it 5.8 million people to watch Tiger take on Phil yet again? It was the largest TV viewership for cable golf ever. Yeah, people are clearly starved looking for sports. So, yeah, if you're a league executive, you have to be looking at that, and you have to be looking at the numbers that you're going to lose if you don't resume, and think that you have to find a way to make this work.
Well, TV viewership starved for sure. Let's see, the most watched golf event in cable TV history, so we'd have to tip our cap to some of the Masters or US Open or British Open broadcast on ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox. But they raised $20 million for charity. And there's some big numbers there on what Tiger and Peyton, Phil and Tom Brady, and Charles Barkley all thrown in the mix, what they were able to generate. And guys, I'm taking a look also at the gaming industry, because they're standing there saying we're missing a big cut. As much as the owners of pro sports teams want viewers, the casinos are saying we got to get back in there. We got to get back. We're missing action. But Andrew, it's not quite that simple of just saying we're going to reopen a casino or how that's going to play out, right?
I think there's so much going on, and we know that the tribal casinos and the regional casinos had begun opening in various places around the country over the last week or two, right? And things have been opening up, and now Las Vegas is talking about joining coming up just next week on June 4th. They'll reopen. It's not going to be the Strip as we know it, though, right? It's going to be a staged opening. I think MGM was talking about opening just two of their casinos. Off the top of my head, it may have been New York, and the Bellagio, leaving the other ones shut down still for a little while. And it's going to be a very different experience. They're going to be blocking off or turning off the slot machines, forcing social distancing, trying to reopen as safely as they can. But there clearly is a pent-up demand, not just for sports, but for gaming as well. And we saw that with the amount wagered over the last week and some of the events that have started up. So yeah, I think we're absolutely going to see them start slowly. The honest truth about a lot of Vegas casinos, though, is outside of the really busy periods, Friday, Saturdays, the casino floor isn't that busy. And so you should be able to do social distancing at that level of traffic, just based on the normal number of people who would be there.
Well, that's a lot to think about because we're getting into, social distancing leads to social norms. And people are so claustrophobic right now that even going to the grocery store or large retailers or something like that has become an unusual thing for us. Well, guys, we're getting ready to wrap up episode number 3 of AAI. I'm Phil with Andrew and Ari. And Ari, we're going to lean into you to tell us what we can expect over the next week as Major League Baseball, the owners and the union now go ahead and really, one's made us a proposal, clearly a proposal that was intended to be rejected. It has been rejected. What can we expect as they volley back and forth over the next week to 2 weeks or even 3 weeks? Give us some thoughts about that, please.
Yeah, it's going to be fireworks already. My Twitter feed and everything else is just blowing up. People seem to be, completely against it, but also to your clever point that it was intended. But I've worked with players, I've worked with agents, worked with owners. There's a lot of emotion, so sometimes it's hard to come back with what the lawyer sense. I worked with one team president who never liked to actually go to salary arbitration since he thought the players would have some emotional bad taste in their mouth. So, I thought that in a way was classy, but yeah, I think there's going to be fireworks, and you're going to have to deal with, from the Players Association, a bunch of players who will dig their heels in and other players that will give the viewpoint, something's better than nothing. And if it's a sliding scale, then you're going to have some players, so basically fighting amongst themselves, and we'll see if they truly believe that something's better than nothing. And same thing with the owners. So I expect to see fireworks, and I'm a little less hopeful than I was an hour ago, but we'll see how that plays out. It's a long way to go.
All right, now, we're giving you the last word. What date will this be settled on? We'll give you an adjusted, amended date for baseball to restart, if only to be reporting to what we'll call spring training or restart locations, wherever that may be.
Well, that's tough, since I'm beginning to think that a lot of this is not just about the 2020 season, that it's some posturing for the collective bargaining agreement.
Oh, yeah.
So that's the challenge. So we may very well see 2021 as the next professional game. I'm starting to think. Since I've been through a strike before in the early 90s, and seems like it was on a lot less than what's happening now.
Well, guys, for my 20 to 25 years in the game, I'm saying this goes to the last minute. But Andrew, you get the last word on when is the last minute. When will that happen?
what is the last minute? I don't want to say it. I fear Ari might be right, but I think if they can get something done by mid-June, our June 15th date, they'll make their best effort to get baseball started at least in early July. But I can't see if we have this kind of negotiation for the next 2 weeks, as Ari was talking about, that bad blood might be just too strong for them to find a solution for this season.
Well, that's a good last word. So that'll wrap us up here in our third week of AAI. We thank our colleagues Ari Kaplan and Andrew Engle for joining us. We appreciate you tuning us in. Subscribe, send us email, direct mail. You can find us on social media. Ari and I are very active. We appreciate you joining us. We'll see you again on AAI on Analytics in Sports. See you next week.